Skate3Tommy, what's going on?
Nothing much. How are you, Golden Thumbs?
Good, good, man.
All right. So this will be my first podcast ever. So
Awesome.
be gentle with me.
Hey, man, you don't take it gentle in that Skate 3, man. You be doing some wild gaps, man. I've never seen anything like the gaps you're doing.
I try. I think I do it intentionally. To be quite honest with you, my thought process on TikTok is I'm playing a 10-year-old skate game that has a cult following. So there's lots of technical things that I actually enjoy probably doing more. But when I do the gaps, I realize that people who know nothing about the game can get more into it because it doesn't take knowledge of skating or that game to see someone going really fast, jumping really high, and clearing a really
Yep,
large gap.
right. See, you're riding
So,
across buildings, you're jumping over just massive gaps. I mean, I see totally what you're saying with that. And the thing is, too, like you're saying, you can get really technical with Skate 3, right? Like that's the nice thing about what you're doing, where you can take it one of two directions. You can get really technical, where even skateboarders can't tell what you're doing because you're just doing so many, wild flips and combinations and stuff. Or you can just take this other approach where you're just doing things that the masses can enjoy. And
yeah, and I think that there's a fine line that I try to kind of walk with that. I mean, one of the things that I'm actually really good at doing is hippie flips and, hippies to rails to ledges. And so it's just not, it doesn't come across to people who know nothing about skating to where I find that if I do things that are just easier to recognize what's going on, the masses seem to
right.
enjoy it more. Yeah.
It's interesting when you say it has like a cult following too. I mean,
I believe Skate 3. I believe the Skate franchise in general has a massive
isn't it
cult following.
interesting how still to today with the other games, not that there's been a million skateboarding games that have come out, but the Skate series is still like the classic, right? Like that's the thing that people will always that set the bar, right? That's the thing we'll always look up to.
I think it's set the bar. I will tell you that there was a number of years where Tony Hawk didn't even put out games because Skate came out. Actually, Tony Hawk had a game lined up to come out when Skate 1 came out, and they put it on the back burner because of
That is
that
big,
game.
considering that the Tony
Yeah.
Hawk series made him a household name, right? I mean, that's like as big as a
Oh, absolutely.
Kardashian, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because as he himself was becoming a household name, wasn't long before they came out with the first Tony
right.
Hawk game. And also, Skate is such an old game. At this point, generations that are playing it now know nothing about the first handful of years when the players that kind of built the foundation of the game, like they know nothing about them.
Right. Right.
There's actually a whole history of players that no one knows about because these guys are in their 30s at this point and they've
Take me
moved
through
on.
some of those
And I guess I'm
people.
just
Who
one
are
of the.
some of those people? What did they do to build the game?
So there was several guys. Spot battle number one was like the main thing in Skate 1. That would be kind of like where the money was at. There's guys that, let me see, Mr. Nomusi or Gnomesy, Fat
Fat
Albert,
Albert. I
before
know
anyone
him.
knew
Yep.
who.
Go ahead.
You know
Oh
of
yeah.
Fat Albert? Okay, because the generation now thinks that Albert X7 or whatever it is, like that's the Albert. And it's like, no, there was a guy,
Yep.
Fat Albert, and he must have been the most dedicated player ever because he was the number ranked
Yep.
spot battle guy, and he had people beat by miles. Like the number two
Yep.
guy wasn't close. There's a trick liner, Anthony Arena. There's a large group. I was one of them. I mean, to be quite honest, I have things in that game that I was actually the first to ever do. But for me to bring that up now to a generation who, number one, wouldn't even
Right.
believe
Right.
me. Yeah, but there's a large group of us that were super dedicated. We were the ones finding black holes in wall rides and and getting on buildings for the first time. There's glitches like the original what was it called?
Mm.
Sorry. The original pop glitch. Like nobody knows really anymore what the original pop glitch was, which was when you were riding, you would hold a manual revert and do like a 360 hard, and it would pop you up in the air 15, 20 feet. That was like revolutionary to us. That was like
Yep.
the big thing. Um so yeah, I mean the game has had longevity, and the following for the game has always been the following for the
It's
game.
interesting when you bring up people like Fat Albert and you talk about how they were miles ahead of everybody else, and I can attest to that. Um, I started playing the Skate series, when it came out, right? And whenever a new game came out, I would play it, but I never got into the multiplayer matches until 2013, 2014. So they had been out for a while, right? And then I
Okay.
joined a ranked match for One Up, and I thought I played it and I lost, and I'm not, I'm a competitive person, but I'm not like sore loser or nothing. But I started thinking about Skate 3 as like, what if this was Call of Duty, where in Call of Duty you have a kill to death ratio, right? And if you start getting just murked out in the field, your kill to death ratio is going to be really terrible, right? And I started
Yeah.
thinking about Skate 3 like that. I was like, I don't want to have a bunch of losses and like no wins. Not that the ranked system works that way, right? It just counts how many wins you get in a sense, because it gives you board sales each time that you win a match. And so
Yeah.
it like sparked me, it energized me. And I went on this
Yeah.
mission to become the number one ranked player in One Up on Skate 3 on Xbox 360. And it
Okay.
literally took a year, like 365 days straight. And I was playing like six
Oh
to
yeah.
8 hours a day.
Oh yeah, I would be up until 3 in the morning, and honestly, one of the coolest things was like I wasn't in a
Right.
crew,
Me neither.
and it wasn't a legitimate thing, but I had met like 3 or 4 guys who became really
Yep.
close friends. And for anyone who hears this, on 360 when I started, I went by
Okay.
Quagmire, which is really dating how old this game is because Family Guy was still a big thing. Um, but it was so intricate. The thing about Spot Battle was, now here's the thing. I think people assume through TikTok that I don't know how to trick line or that I just don't do
Right.
it. And I always tell people that I put it behind me because I've been playing this for 13
Yep.
years, mind you. Now, in Skate 1, the speed and the rotation and the speed in which you could do flick tricks was a lot higher than Skate 2
Okay.
and 3. And the trick lining was different. And it got to the point where it was like, if you were at a spot battle spot called Big Ass Wall, a really good guy could get 13 flip tricks in and 180s before he hit the spot to get his score to
Okay.
count.
Sure.
And it got down to the point where, like, if you were a 12 trick guy, you were never going to beat the 13
Right.
trick guy. So it kind of snowballed like that. And then it just got more and more to where one guy stepped up and figured out how to get 14 tricks in before he actually hit the
Right.
spot and made the score count.
It's
So
funny
yeah.
because
So
I mean you're spot on that there's this thing in the game. People have got it down to a science, right? Where it's like you got to get a certain amount of tricks in, and that's the most that you could possibly get in. And as I was playing the game, and I got to by the time I got to the number 4 spot, the guys up in the first 3 ranks started hitting me up. And at first they were kind of scared because I just came out of nowhere, right? But
yeah.
then once I took over like number 3, number 2, then the dude who was number 1, it might have been Fat Albert. I don't remember. It's been years now, but um
Yeah.
they finally were like friendly with me, and they started showing me these different things where they were like, all right, you got to set your character like this, you got to have them in this stance, you got to have your wheels like this, you got to have your trucks like this, right? Like the whole board, the whole setup was tweaked so that everything worked perfect. And at first it was really hard to get used to, but once I figured it out, once I got like in the rhythm of it, then I was able to do more tricks than you know than you would be able to do with a different setup.
Yeah. It was definitely more involved than people might realize, especially as you climbed up the rankings of it. Um, and like I said, like on TikTok and social media and stuff like that, I don't do the trick lining and all that because to me, When I did it, it was very almost
Yep, it is
mechanical.
very mechanical.
So I don't feel like it's like visually, if you don't know anything about it, you can't appreciate it as much as like you say, I do all these big gaps and stuff. So I see it, and me as a skate player, I appreciate it. But it would be very hard for someone who doesn't have real knowledge of the game to appreciate the level of like, and I don't even know how to explain it, but the level of difficulty it is to do some of the stuff in that game, especially on the online
You're
competitive
absolutely right.
modes.
And well, and the nice thing about how you're doing it on TikTok, I mean, number one, you have been growing like an insane amount. I mean, just in the last, what is it, like the
Yeah.
last 2 months, I've seen you just shoot up. You're at
Yeah. I
48,000
mean, I'm not
followers
going to
right now.
lie. I'm at it. I will tell you, this week has been really
Okay.
slow. I don't know what's going on TikTok. I posted a video today and I increased the length of time on it to like 40
Nice.
something seconds. And usually a good video for me is like 20 something seconds because I don't want to
Right.
overdo it. I got 3,000 views today and 1,000 likes, and it just hasn't gone anywhere. So, and I've noticed the ebbs and flows. I'll have a really good week where I'm getting 300 to nearly 2,000 followers.
Yep.
And then this last week's been about
Yep.
100 a day. But I will tell you that being featured on ESPN and Sports Center definitely didn't
That
hurt
was a
me.
big deal, man.
So,
When I heard about that, that
yeah.
was crazy. So you were featured on ESPN Sports Center. Was that on their social media?
Yeah, it's on ESPN. I believe it was September 9th. And obviously it meant something to me because I still remember the specific date. Um, but yeah, they contacted me randomly in my messages on another video that they never used and said, "Hey, like we want to use your videos, basically." And at that point, I mean, I've grown up in America and I watch sports. So when ESPN
Right.
contacts you, it doesn't matter. I'm in my 30s. It did not matter. I felt like a
Yeah,
little
you
kid.
were hyped.
What? What do you mean? You want to use my skate clips from a 10-year-old video? And yeah, it was awesome. I mean, there was a few things they did that I was a little bit unhappy with. Not in a bad way, but I would have done
Okay.
it different. They sandwiched another guy's clip in between my two, and it was the quarry gap, which, I mean, I'm always known as a positive guy, but how often can you watch the same spots over and
Right.
over again and people do the same thing? And then I sent them the videos and they expanded it so much that it got really grainy. I sound like I'm complaining. Believe me, I am completely
Right,
happy
sure.
with the fact that I was on there. They put me on Sports Center on Instagram and ESPN on
Ooh,
TikTok. And accumulatively, they've probably got about 4 million
wow.
views through that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
It's nice that they put it on two platforms too.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. It was definitely pretty cool. I always joke with people now, and I say on my gravestone, it's going to say was once kind of on ESPN.
You know what's interesting too is they used very technical tricks kind of in the clips that they featured, right? Because didn't they use like a hippie jump in one of the clips?
I did like a triple kickflip hippie, and I think I went 360 on it or something like that. And then they used another one, which I'm happy they used because it might be one of the hardest things I've ever done in the game, was the miracle whip through the hole in
Yeah,
the
that was
bricks,
wild. That was
which I've done 4 or 5 things through. And it was one of those things I'd never seen anyone do it. And it's like, if you're ever just skating by something or walking by something and you see something, the light bulb goes off and you say, wait a minute, how have I not seen that
right. And
forever?
the amazing thing
You
about
know?
that for people who haven't seen the clip is that the structure that you flew through was the same height, the same width as your character, and the same height as your
Absolutely.
character. And you flew at it from like
Absolutely.
50 or 100 feet away, flipping,
Yeah.
doing like a front flip essentially, right? Holding the board. And so to actually,
Yeah.
with such precision, fly through this structure, well, you could call it like a statue, I assume, right? To fly through
Yeah.
that, it was incredible.
And I did it 3 times
Three
prior to
times
that,
prior.
but I made it through 3 times. But if you look at the clip, the fraction of a second that I was able to get the board back under my feet, because it wasn't
Ooh,
that
right.
high. So going from a miracle whip to getting the board back under your feet generally takes a certain amount of time. And I just made it. And I actually had a friend, and I haven't heard anyone really mention him much, but one guy who's kind of really helped me through a lot of the TikTok stuff early on, and whose intentions were always good, was a guy named Skate3 Replays.
Okay.
And he watched me coffin through it. The first thing I ever did was coffin through
Sure.
it. So I want to give him credit. He's the first guy to super dude through it.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, well, this is my spot. How do I step up a super
Yeah.
dude? So I did the miracle whip, and I've got one more, which has actually become the hardest one to do through it, and I'm yet to land it, but it's simply a Christ air going through
Wow.
it.
Very cool.
So yeah.
And now, it's interesting. You were sort of, I don't want to say competitive, but you were motivated. You saw somebody else want to do it, right? I think that plays a big role in playing at such an advanced level, is feeling like you almost want to one up other people, but not do it in a competitive or, negative spirit. It's almost just like bettering and, advancing what people are doing in the game. Is that how you feel when you're doing
Yeah,
it? You
and
feel
it's
like you're trying to advance what you're.
yeah, and that, especially when it's something that's been done before, I really stray away from things that have been done before. I don't want to be the guy doing the double bridge
Okay.
gap. It's just not, and I get it that it's a super difficult thing to do. I've done it several times before. But yes, stepping something up it's kind of always the reward. Um, and usually it's received pretty well by others. And there have been some negative things being on social media with the game and playing it, and a lot of the negativity that I've received has actually been from other creators, not as much obviously my I don't call them followers typically. I say supporters because the word follower doesn't ring right in my head when I
That's
say it.
fair. That's fair.
Um, yeah, but
So are
yeah.
you getting most of your ideas from other creators, like when you want to step something up, or are you trying to come up with ideas that like haven't, I mean, obviously you stay away from certain things that have been overdone, right? And then you see other things and you want to
Yeah.
step it up. Are you also looking for things that are like never been done, coming up with like unique ideas?
I think most of what I do has never been done because I don't like to sound cocky, but I feel like one of the advantages I have is that I've played this game so long, but when I skate around in the map, which to me feels limited now because I've done it, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
so much of it in the game already that I could still look at something that no one's looked at in a certain way and be able to utilize through speed or skill and actually do something with it. I think my joy is finding something in that game, which is much like skating in real life, finding something that was never meant to be used in a certain way and using it. And that's kind of my bread and butter, I believe, honestly.
That's it. It's advantageous for sure. It's awesome, dude. Well, so how are you going about these tricks? Because so for people who haven't seen your videos, or just to sort of paint a picture of what we're talking about, you'll, in your TikTok videos, you will make a ramp, right? And you will get all of the speed and just jump like 1,000 feet, right, 100 feet, and land on a building or ride around it, all these kinds of things. How are you building these ramps, and how are you getting this much speed? How are you putting these two things together?
Well, the ramp thing, the double ramp that I recently have been doing, and the triple ramp is something I kind of recently started doing, and I think it's the one of the beauties of this game is that everything is so usable. They give you everything. I mean, if you've watched my video of me like dropping a massive stone ball and making a soccer ball fly off of a rail and land in a garbage
Right.
bin, they give you all the tools in skate. And then not often are people looking at these things as tools to use. So the ramp thing is purely like I sat there and I'm like, how can I make this work? The speed is using a glitch, which I think some people are like, well, man, that's not legitimate because you use the glitch. But to me, it's like this game has been out so long. And if you want to push boundaries at some point, you're going to utilize the things offered.
Right. And see, that
Um,
brings up another thing where people are, people, I guess you get these comments a lot where people say that's unrealistic, or they talk about using glitches and they're not happy about it. Yeah, how do you feel when you see these people coming around and just sort of dropping, these ridiculous comments like that? It's a video game, right? It's meant to be played like a
I
video
I
game.
typically assume that they're not able to do it themselves. I think I'm known, and I was gonna joke and say, well, Skate3Tommy or the John Cena of
Yeah.
Skate 3, um, as you and Jordy
Yeah.
alluded to. But when people say not realistic, there's only one response, which is, well, luckily there's something called skateboarding in real life, and if I want realism, I get my skateboard and I go outside
That's
and I ride it.
exactly what I always say to myself too when I see these people talking about playing unrealistic. It's like that's the whole point of a video game. I think for some people, I think a large percentage of the gaming population with skateboarding games wants to play it realistic. They want to feel like they're like in this fantasy world where they can, kickflip, backtail a handrail, right? But it's like we're not
Yeah.
playing it for that. We're playing it to do the most, right? We're
And to be honest with you, I'm also playing it like that when I'm not looking to
exactly
record
same
something.
here.
So when I'm trying to push an envelope or push boundaries of a game that has been out so long, it's just like speed running.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? I mean, speed running gets super intense. If you watch Summoning Salt on YouTube and you watch a guy speed run Mario 64, the game is 25 years old. So you're just pushing boundaries. And when it comes to glitches, I've always told myself this, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I almost feel like developers intentionally have created these glitches.
Yep,
It's up to you to figure them
absolutely.
out. But you got a guy who's creating a game for 5 years and he's really good at what they do. And he's like, hey, let me just throw in this glitch
That's
real quick.
interesting.
You know, maybe they'll find it, maybe they won't. But while I'm developing it, I'm going to know how to use it.
That's the
You know what I
question
mean?
that I've always had as I play these games is are you never know, is this intentional, right? Like I was just playing Skater XL yesterday and um somebody showed me if you jump between these two barriers and then you place your set point as soon as you jump through these barriers, it'll put you on the other side of the map. So it's like that's a really
Okay.
specific thing and something that nobody would just come up with, right? But then when you do it and you get on the other side of the map, there's this whole area that you can skate. So you're like, this had to be intentional, right? Because they made the whole
Yeah.
area skatable back there. But at the same point,
And I think you get gamers who believe that it's like a disrespectful thing to find these things. And I found so many glitches and so many unfinished parts of a map in Skate 3. And I'm a realistic person and understand, well, they don't never expected you to get over there. But at the same time, it's never made me if anything, it's made me love the game even
yep,
more. So I feel like some people think that like you're almost disrespecting the creator of the game by finding something that they did not figure out or patch or whatever the case may be. But I don't even think that the people developing the game would be that
no,
upset with
no,
you.
it makes it fun, and
So
it's a shame because I think the broader population it likes to see these kinds of glitches. The first video I had that went viral was just showing that glitch where you go to Hollywood High, you put your heels against the wall, you do an ollie, you do a nollie, and it helps you climb up the wall and get onto this like roof at the school. And I
yeah.
think it was just this idea that people liked seeing like a glitch in the game, right? Something that hadn't been patched, right? And so it's like, at the same time, though,
And you say glitch, and I say, well, man, why did they even make that skatable if they didn't want
exactly
someone up
right. So
there?
it's not even
They could
really a glitch
that
when
part
you
of the
think
map,
about it.
and I know exactly what you're talking about. That's the first time I ever saw you, and I knew you were going to do well because number one, as good as you are at that game, your narration on that was
I
just
appreciate that.
spotless. And I think it really lended. I don't want to say that lended to the viralness of that
Mm-hmm.
video, but it really, I think, in my opinion, it absolutely did. But they could have easily made that something that you just fell through and couldn't even ride
Right,
across.
exactly.
So, but yeah,
It's interesting because I had talked to Jordy, I think, or before I even started posting on TikTok, and um, he was telling me you got to use your voice, you got to do narration because it's going to help you brand yourself. And I was so used to on Instagram just making edits where I would play the game, I would put music to it, and then I tried to bring that same idea over to TikTok, but it just was never working. And
yeah, Jordy did that for me, and he said that in the episode you did with him. But he was the guy who said you need to add a personal touch. And I did, and it made all the difference, to be quite honest with
Yeah.
you. And Instagram, I can't figure it out. I'm only on Instagram because ESPN directed me to go get on Instagram so I could send them clips for
Right.
that. I don't know how to catch traction on Instagram. I don't know how to get it out past 1,500
Well,
people.
that's the thing, right? I mean, 1,500. Yeah, that's all I've been getting on there recently too. For a while, I was getting like 5,000, but that, I mean, what's the difference, right? And it's like, it's always been tough. But I think it's different content. I think on Instagram, you tend to reach an audience that wants more technical tricks. It might be that it's landing in front of people who are actually skateboarders on Instagram, whereas on
Okay.
TikTok, it's
Yeah.
landing in front of people who just like playing video games in general. So at that
Yeah.
point,
And as gamers, we kind of all have, like, we have a very small corner of these
that's true.
platforms. And to be quite honest with you, we all have the things we're good at and the things that
Yep.
we're not good at. As a skate player, I'm obviously
Yep.
pretty good.
You are very good.
I'm not a social media guy. I grew up in the 90s, and when I wanted to have fun, I was
Right.
outside. So that's where I fall behind, is that I don't have the knowledge and the ability to use social media platforms to the most that I can.
I don't know, man. I think you're
And,
doing
and that's where I'm.
it wasn't long ago. You had a
Do
video with
you?
500,000 views, just like what was that, like a couple weeks ago or something, man?
So I did, yeah, I did a top 5. I think it's at maybe like
Nice.
640,000 views. That is the most that I've gotten. And I think I do well with talking and narrating, and
Right.
people enjoy that. But I still feel like I truly haven't gotten a viral video, unless you consider ESPN featuring my video, which to me, that's them getting a viral
Yeah,
video.
I see the point that you're making.
Yeah. I've never broke that 1 million yet, but I think that the amount of likes that I get and the following um, is pretty well for someone who hasn't, to me, hit a true
Well,
viral
see,
video.
that's what's interesting to me is your like to view ratio. I mean, you were just saying when we got on here that you had a video did 3,000 views and 1,000 likes. So that's 1 in 3
Yeah, and that was
views result
today.
in a
And I
like.
think you might have seen that on Instagram, the one where I was kicking the soccer ball
Yep.
off the building. Sometimes you throw an experiment video out there, and just to see, where am I missing? Is it the length of time that my video is? Is it the like to comment ratio? I think one area that I don't do good in sometimes is
Okay.
shares. I don't think that I don't think that I get the shares that I need to really push a video into viralness.
Right.
But I also don't think that anyone truly understands the algorithm, and I swear it
Well,
changes
that's the
weekly.
thing. I was just watching Aliens in My Spliff. He's on TikTok. Skate
Oh,
Jordy passed me
absolutely.
to him, and he put text on his video, and it said something along the lines of, "My page is dying, so spam random buttons on this video," right? And so it had like
Yeah.
600 or 6,000 shares, and big difference between those two. I don't know, but it was a point being, it was a big number of shares, right? But it still only
Yeah.
had like,
And
but it
he's
still
very
only
good
had
at
like
that.
2,000 likes. 2,000 likes is good, but it's not. It didn't go viral with all those shares. So then he had another video where he said, "Start arguments in the comments about random things." So then this video had like 600 comments and 1,200 likes. Again,
Yeah.
it didn't go viral. It did well. It got pushed, but it didn't really do that well, right? So it's like,
I mean, to be quite honest with you, I put a video up yesterday or the day before, and honestly, I sometimes not sure if reposting is good or not. But I did a video a few days ago just showing the 2 clips as the ones that were featured on ESPN. And I'll wait 3 months, 4 months before I just throw a really good one back out there to try to reach a new audience. When I looked at who was liking it, and it has a good amount of likes, 0 people who don't follow me actually
that's the
watched it.
problem that I've
So
been
it never
having
it
recently.
never it never went it never went to anybody other than the
That's
people
the problem
following
I've
me.
had with my last few videos is that it's just been going, well, yeah, it's just been going to followers recently. I don't know. And it's
Yeah.
interesting when you say too that we only reach a small segment of TikTok, right? I mean, I think anybody does, except for people that are just, massive and have millions of followers. But I think most creators reach a small segment, but that's part of the problem too, right? Is that I think they might be narrowing us so much that they end up like over narrowing it, and then they only.
And I almost and as we're getting narrow, I'm sitting there still hoping that they see it, and what we're doing now and what you're doing is great, because these are the type of things, and even as Jordy alluded to, us kind of coming
Yep.
together and saying, no, here
Yep.
we are, like we're gonna do this. I think that's gonna help the situation, and I want us to all kind of continue to do that. But yeah, we get the small, like, we get the guest bedroom in TikTok.
The guest bedroom.
Yeah. And but it's all right. I when you're playing a game like this, and you get the following that I've even built or you've built, like, you still have an
Right.
appreciation for it, which I always do. And my biggest thing on TikTok was that if you're willing to follow me and hit like, and you always want to comment and have that conversation with me, I think the one thing that I've always done is I've literally responded to every single comment that I've gotten this
It
whole
makes a
time.
big difference.
And I'm doing it from a good place. It's not just for the algorithm for me. It's like, no, and I tell these kids, when they're like, I get every day, oh my God, you responded back to me. And it might be the first time someone's actually messaged me or
Yep.
commented on a video. And I smile, because it's like, well, I always respond back. And they're like, well, that's awesome. I said, well, here's the deal. Without you guys, there is no Skate3Tommy.
Right. Yeah,
You
the
know what
kids
I
are
mean?
excited to hear
No.
that a creator got back to them.
Absolutely. And every day I get a kid making a video and adding me in it, and saying, oh, I did this for Skate3
Wow.
Tommy. And I have kids myself. So it's like, to know that, like, I did a video once, a birthday video. It's the only video I've ever dedicated. And the kid was crying, like, after. And I guess just being a normal human, and just thinking, when I started this, it was just to archive my videos. I said, you know what? My friend made me download TikTok. At some point, something's going to happen in my gaming systems, the server on Skate 3. I might never see some of my clips again. Let me archive it on this app, TikTok. And I never expected. I never tried to even make it a thing.
It's interesting.
So it throws me off when a kid is that happy that I'm responding to them. I smile, it makes me happy, but at the same time, I'm like, really? Like, is that what I'm doing here? And
Yeah,
it's
it is
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think that you know it's like you said, there's a cult following for the game in terms of both the players, but then we're starting to realize there's also a cult following for the creators who play these games too.
Yeah.
People actually enjoy watching the content. Um,
And I will tell you, the announcement of something like Skate 4, regardless of it being a year and a half to 2 years out, that was a revitalization. And then when EA basically said that some random employee accidentally turned the server back on, I will not. I can't. I'm not going to believe that for one moment. That a few months before they announced a new game, that a random employee was able to turn a
yeah,
server back
that's
on for
not
a
how
game
none of that
that
works,
was shown.
right?
Yeah, that's not how that
It
works.
just upsets me how long they waited to get started developing the game. Right? When we look at like Skate 3 came out in 2010, and then in 2020 they
Yeah.
say, "Hey, we're going to get started on it." Where you been the last 10 years?
Oh, and they just had, it was the fan base, and everyone knows it. I don't know much about Annie Steezy, but I know that in some way, shape, or form, he pushed for it a lot. And they should have seen, even with guys like Zek to see his success. Now, Zek is a weird subject for me, because I'm like, well, man, I've been doing it a lot longer than this guy, but he had the wherewithal to do what he did with it way back when he started doing it. And to see a guy on YouTube who has 3.4 million subscribers, or wherever number he's at, they should have known that there was still a market for the game.
I don't see how it wasn't. I mean, it had to be obvious to them, and I don't understand what took so long. I mean, it's upsetting in the sense that if it really came down to a profit and loss statement, then it's just it's odd to me. You know what I mean? That they might have
Well,
held off because of money. They didn't. When you see the passion of I mean, a business is business. That's understandable. But when you see the
absolutely.
passion of the people behind it, you have to know that it's gonna work out. right? Like I think that gets lost sometimes in corporate America, which is what EA has obviously become. If they ignored all the passion, because they ignored it, right? There's no
And
reason
yeah,
they
they
couldn't have
ignored it. And
thrown uh I mean, how much does a game developer make? There's no reason they couldn't have thrown a couple dudes on salary to go work on the game for a couple years. The amount of money that would have cost them compared to number one, what the game's going to make them, and number two, how much they have in general from all their other games is ridiculous. It was totally
yeah,
doable for them.
absolutely. I mean, what was Skater XL made by
Right,
7
right,
guys?
right.
And
Independent
it's a
guys,
project of
independent
love.
guys
It
who didn't
wasn't
have
even like,
however much in the bank that EA has, right? It's the thing. You make games so that, yeah. I mean, we don't have to get into a whole portfolio strategy here and business strategy, but it was silly that they waited so long to get started on making it, especially when they have the
well, I
money.
will tell you, my brother, I'm from New York City. I don't live there now, but my brother is a game developer in New York. And obviously EA makes Skate, but EA has also been known to be almost a sweatshop of video games.
Okay.
Um, and they're not the greatest to some of their employees. When you work for EA, your idea instantly becomes EA's owned idea. I mean, but I get that they're EA. They're super corporate. They
Right.
have to be. But my issue with them waiting this long to make the game is that although new kids, like a kid will tell me today that, he just bought a copy of Skate 3. What do you pay, $10 for
Right.
that? But you still get new kids playing it. But what you did was your core guys who were there when you started have already aged out of wanting to really
Mm-hmm.
play. Like you waited right on the cusp of the point where like you're going to lose half of your core players who
Ooh.
are like really good at the game because they were 20 when they got it and now they're 30 and they have kids and a family, and like that's just not where their life is. But that's their
The
prerogative,
other
I guess.
interesting thing is when you say a kid picked up Skate 3 for the first time. The game's been out for 10 years, right? So somebody picking it up for the first time 10 years later, the Skate franchise is like Disney, right? Like Disney's never going to die, right? Disney has always been around. They're always
No.
going to have something that's classic, right? They're always, you can go pick up any Disney movie from the 90s and still appreciate it, right? And people do. And the
Yeah.
same thing is true of the Skate franchise, especially when they can still sell copies to people who have never played the game before.
And 95% chance that if you walked into a GameStop right now and asked them for a copy of Skate 3, they might not even have it because they literally will sell out of
right.
it. As quick as someone brings in their old Skate 3 copy is as quick as they don't have it anymore because it has that cult following. I mean, I've burned through, I couldn't tell you how many copies of each one of these games, but it's been several. And I've played them across both platforms, PlayStation and Xbox. And it's also been a game that's worn through more controllers than any game I've ever played in
Yep,
my
I
life.
have broken my share of controllers too, Xbox specifically.
Yeah,
But it's interesting, right? Because it's the
the
controls that force you to break those sticks when you're playing it.
oh yeah, they become loose within a matter
And
of
you
months.
know what? I played it for a year with loose sticks, and it was the worst thing. Eventually I got eventually I got used to it. Just because because I just had to like relearn the sticks with loose sticks, right? I had to relearn it with loose sticks, and because I just didn't feel like buying a
Yeah.
new controller. Because at that point I wasn't playing it as much anymore. Eventually I went out and got a new controller, and it made all the difference. But they will break your controllers. How do you like playing Skate 3 on PlayStation? Because I've never played it on PlayStation.
So I started on Xbox 360 back in 07, I guess, when Skate 1 came out. And then there was a point where I went to the PS3. And then I played that. The thing about the PS3 is that the outer wall of what stops the stick, like to its max, seems a little bit wider out there. So it might be slightly more difficult.
I'm
But
holding it.
I honestly think it plays better on Xbox, to be quite
That's what
honest
I've
with you.
always assumed. I'm holding a PlayStation controller right now, and it just doesn't. I don't know. I mean, PlayStation's cool. Obviously, I have it, but for Skate 3, I just could never see myself playing it. Just the controllers, right? I mean, that makes a difference. Where the sticks are located, how
Yeah,
the controller is held. I mean, it all makes a difference.
absolutely.
Very cool, Skate3Tommy,
Yeah.
man. This is exciting, man, having you on. How much
Thank you.
time are you spending between each post? Because I was talking to Jordy, and he was telling me quantity over quality. That's the first time. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard somebody actually say quantity over quality. And so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, because I've been posting 2 to 3 times a week, usually like 2 to 3 days between a post. What are you finding?
I'm a little, not to say a perfectionist, but my whole theory is like, if it doesn't impress me that I did it, I don't really want to
Okay.
post it. And that's just kind of the rule of thumb for me, and that's how I just am in life. But I also, at this point, I work 6 days a week. I've got a
Right.
family, so and when you get into TikTok, it obviously becomes addicting, especially when you see those
Yep.
numbers going up, and you're like, "Wow, this is really awesome." And then you get that period where you're like, "Well, my life is so busy, I can't post. I haven't posted in 4 days. This is going to start dying out." I think I try to get 3 to 4 posts in
Okay.
weekly. And I don't necessarily want to put something out there that doesn't meet my standard.
Interesting. So if it entertains
So
you, you think it's good enough to go out and entertain others.
I just kind of figure if I've been playing it as long and it impresses me, then it's sure to impress someone else that I did it. And I have done 1 or 2 or 3 that were like, should I
Mm.
do it? Okay, I'll put it up. And they've done better than
Well,
other
that's
videos
good.
because I guess,
No, that's
yeah, go ahead.
that's
No, I'm
what I,
sorry.
I I was telling Jordy too. I was saying, there was been a couple of videos where I made it, and then I wish I never made it, and they end up pushing those videos.
Yeah, because it's like art. Art beauty is in the eye of the
Mm.
beholder. So, and that might come down to like, maybe I'm overdoing it with that, because maybe at some points someone wants to see a video that they're like, well, maybe if I sit down for a few hours, I could recreate that and do it myself,
Sure.
instead of doing the video that someone watches and goes, I get a lot of the times, I wish I was that good at that game. And I'm like, man, you could get that good at that game. So maybe there's something to be said about doing something that others can replicate and maybe just didn't know they could do
These
it.
two things might not be connected, or they might be. Jordy was saying that when he makes a video, he's scared that people leave TikTok after watching his videos because they want to go play True Skate. And so he thinks that that has affected his performance in the algorithm, that he's driving people away from TikTok. He's doing things that he's good, but he's doing things that I'm assuming people think, oh, I can go try that, right? And so they see him do something, then they want to go try it on True Skate, so they leave TikTok to go try it.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about Jordy, is he's very
Right.
analytic, and he's very good at looking at those things. And even if it's not true, Jordy will be the guy to find out if it is affecting
Yep,
his
yep.
page.
And so I'm wondering with
And
you,
that's
like, because you've been growing a lot, and assuming that continues, and assuming that you continue making content where people are like, I wish I could do that, I could never do that. Like, that would be an interesting
yeah,
correlation.
it's getting harder and harder
Is
to
it
do
really?
that. And then yeah, then naming myself Skate3Tommy. Well, that's going to have to change eventually.
Yeah, you're starting to feel
Um,
pigeonholed.
well, I'm a little pigeonholed, and to give you an assessment of me, I play very few games. I don't view myself as a gamer. I'm a guy who really loves skate, and a guy that at times will play Call of Duty when I'm willing to be angry for a few hours. But yeah, it pigeonholes me into Skate 3. Eventually 4 will come out, and will I still be Skate3Tommy? I don't think so. Um, and I guess my plan is to ride this out and try to grow it until Skate 4 comes out, and we'll see where I lie then. It might be a completely different game. I might not be viewed as that good when Skate 4 comes out,
Sure.
but I'm gonna
Sure.
try.
That's the thing when a new game
Um,
comes out, trying to find out what you can do to stand out in the game. like Skater XL has come
Yeah.
out now, and I've been playing that. But trying to find what makes me unique in the game is taking time, right?
Well, especially a game that is priding itself on being more like the skater's skate game.
Yep.
You know, if you could do a blunt slide down a ledge, it's like, wow, that was really nice. But if you did that on the Skate 3 video, it's like, yeah, but that wasn't hard at all.
Exactly.
But it's a lot hard. It's a lot harder in XL.
Eh, eh,
So it would be very hard. I know some guys on Zero Nation. It's a skate crew, and they play it a lot. And they're obviously using a lot of mods and stuff like that, but they're doing a lot of hippie flips and things like that in XL, and it makes them stand out. But I don't know if that's going to be very beneficial to them, because I think that the fans of XL are wanting it to be the skater's skate game. Like, if you skate, you'll appreciate
Yeah,
this, you know?
that's the hard thing with it is for somebody like myself, where you know you want to play it you want to play unrealistic. You want it to be like a fantasy where it's like you can do these insane tricks that nobody could ever do in real life. Yeah, and you're escaping into this whole other world when you're playing a video game, and that's how I take it. But
Yeah.
Skater XL was developed to sort of simulate
It,
real life.
it's Yeah, it is supposed to be. I have not played it yet, which I think people are amazed at, and that might be part of the pigeonhole of being Skate3Tommy.
Yeah, it's going to be
Um,
hard for you to go straight from Skate 3 to Skater. I mean, you'll be able to do it, but it's going to be like a whole different world. It's going to be like a train hit you.
well, and then everyone says to me, like, you'll get it if you skate, because each joystick is like the foot of a skateboard. Now I know how to skate. I'm not great at
Sure.
skating. I don't own any Guinness Book World Records by any means. Um, but is it really? Is each
I
joystick
don't buy
like,
into that
if
I
I'm
don't
doing a
buy
heel
into that
flip,
whole thing, and I'll tell you why. When the game first came out, I was on Facebook and I was seeing people that I'm friends with on Facebook that are really good local skateboarders, and I mean, like, actually, really. I mean, I've been skateboarding for 13 years, so if I know somebody's good, like, they're good, right? And
yeah,
they were having a hard time getting adjusted to the game, and so
yeah. Well, how could you replicate a foot on another apparatus on a
yeah,
controller?
I mean,
You're a foot on a skateboard is never gonna be your finger on a
right.
controller. It's
It's
just not.
directional, right?
But
It's like, well, you swipe the left stick in certain directions. You swipe the left stick in the same direction that you would swipe your left foot, right? Um,
okay, sounds like
I well,
skate to
that's
me.
the thing. I mean, that's I think what I'm finding is you then have to determine like what is we never had this before, right? We've only ever had Tony Hawk Pro Skater, the Skate franchise. We've only ever had games where the tricks were predetermined, right? And if you always swipe your stick this way, you're going to get this trick. This is the first time we've
Yeah,
had a game where that wasn't the case, and it was more, they call it independent foot control. That's their phrase
yeah,
for their technology. Um, but in the end, you always have to flick your sticks a certain way to get a specific trick. So,
yeah. And they're gonna build on it. Skater XL is gonna be a franchise, I believe, and they're gonna
yeah,
refine
that's
it.
true.
And that's one of the biggest things that I hear whenever anyone says anything to me about the game. I will tell you that the one word, and you might have seen it too, the one word that comes up more than anything is unfinished.
Interesting.
To me, what I've seen in my comments when people ask me, and I say, "Well, what are your thoughts on it?" Great game, feels
Yeah,
unfinished.
and I don't know that they're saying that in a hopeful way. I think they're saying that I've read like reviews where people say there's no challenges in the game like Skate 3. There's a whole story mode, right? This game doesn't have a story mode. There's no multiplayer yet on the console version. They say it's unfinished, so there is a lot left that can be done. Um,
Yep. Now imagine them getting picked up by a major studio, or a major gaming
right, then all
company,
those things can happen
and
overnight, essentially.
All those things can happen overnight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They are talking about bringing community maps to consoles in the holiday season of 2020, maybe early 2021. I don't know. They haven't given out specific dates, but they are talking about community maps, just like Skate 3, where, you could go and you could download maps that other people made. That, I
Yeah.
think, is going to be a big deal, because the number one complaint that you hear with any skateboarding game is that they want more maps.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to be able to expand on that.
And I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to multiplayer on the console as well.
Okay. So where I guess I would ask you, where do you think the future is for guys like us who are trying to further this?
For people, okay, yeah, for creators that making content around skateboarding games.
Yes.
Where is the future?
Or is it all just individual? Like we all kind of have our own road we're
No,
taking to see where we want to go.
what Jordy said in the last episode, where he said that we all need to come together. That's why I'm doing the podcast. I figured this is an area for gaming creators to come together and speak up, and have their voice heard, and just talk about different things, and a place that people can listen. And it can be a million different things, right? But the idea is to bring people onto the podcast, and then have people you know um push their episodes as much as they're willing. And with doing that, we're going to be able to take the base audience that we have on TikTok and on Instagram. We're going to be able to bring them into a more in-depth arena. And with that, it can expand. So
Absolutely. And obviously you're not going to do just skate, but it is something that you hold close to your
right,
heart.
right.
So obviously it'll always have a place
Absolutely.
on your podcast. I would think that I get often asked, I can't find you on YouTube. What's your YouTube? Are you streaming it? It feels like the natural progression for me is to try to actually grow a brand and become the guy on YouTube doing it.
Interesting.
But as a guy at my age and not knowing if it would actually work out, to just jump in that
You should do it. Should do it. I've posted just a few videos of me playing the Skater app, 2-minute videos, and I mean, they've gotten out there. So they haven't got a lot of views, but they've gotten out there. They've been seen. So there's definitely a market out there. And here's the thing: the first 1,000 followers, the first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube is going to be the hardest. But once you do that, it's going to become a lot easier. The point is that when you get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, you can get monetized. Once you get monetized, there's ads on your videos, and YouTube is now making money from that, and you are too as the creator. Here's the thing: when they can make money from your videos, they push your videos more. It's been seen that videos that are monetized can get more views than videos that aren't monetized. So when you can hit that first 1,000 subscribers, things are going to take off from there. Milky hasn't been sitting at 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? Like, he's up there now. He's at like 30,000 now, right? Because he's number one, he's good at what he does, right? Like he earned it.
And I will tell you, I'm unfamiliar.
Okay, he's a Skater XL creator on YouTube, so he's earned his base. But at the same time, being monetized helps, right? So if you're good at what you do and you're monetized, you put those two things together, you're going to grow with much more ease than you do in the beginning. So I would say get on there, make the content, make it findable. In other words, use common skateboarding lingo, and people will search that lingo. They will find it. As they find your videos, they'll subscribe, and eventually you'll climb the hill. And then from there, your videos will start being pushed more and more to people who like those kinds of videos.
Yeah, and I'm into. I talk with some people. There's a guy on TikTok, Jeff Corrette, which he's much more famous than me, or whatever you want to call it. He's probably got about 700,000 followers, and he's one of those guys on TikTok that tells people the trends and what they need to do, and we message each other back and forth. I think that TikTok has been my base and that's where I started creating content. And I knew that if I wanted it to go further, that I needed to build it in the right way on there, which is to not be on there. Like, I don't want to be the guy that's toxic.
Mm.
You know, I want to be that guy that's friendly and supportive and takes every chance to try to show someone how to do something or teach them something new. Um, but I think my fear is that the thousands of people are willing to say that they'll jump over and follow you on something else, but humans are by nature somewhat
Oh
lazy,
yeah.
I believe, and not in a bad way, but we kind of all say we'll do something that we're not
Yep.
going to really do. So my wonder is like, man, can I just build it to the point on TikTok or on Instagram to where I jump into YouTube with that 1,000 right away? And I don't care about it monetarily
Right.
right away, obviously. But will those people really take the jump with me?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is most won't. I mean, I've seen TikTokers with millions of followers and then they have like 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? So a lot of the
Yeah.
audience doesn't transfer over. But I mean, it is nice that I mean, how many profile views are you getting each day? You got to be getting probably 500 profile views a day at least.
When I looked recently, and I look at it at that 28
Yeah.
day cycle, I will tell you that I get about 30,000 profile views every
Okay, there
28
you go.
days. And obviously it's up and down. Currently the last week has kind of killed it, but I get around 1.5 million views on a 28-day
That's
cycle.
amazing. Yeah. So, you know, if you can link to a YouTube channel from your bio. I don't see why you couldn't get a handful of people to go over there and at least help you feel like motivated, right?
Yeah, and for me I see it as, I think that I'm very personality driven with my
Yep,
content. So in some ways, I think I could be possibly more successful on YouTube because I'll be able to be on camera and I'm not camera
sure.
shy. And, you know, I have two eyes, one nose, and a mouth. And I think that it would go okay. But like I said, you know, at my age, and it's always hard to dive into something that could either go really good or really just go
Sure.
nowhere.
Have you
Um,
joined the Creator Fund on TikTok?
yes,
Okay,
I
cool.
have.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't pay a lot, but I mean, if you could somehow take that and just reinvest that into doing YouTube, I mean, that might really help you. I mean, if you were to,
Yeah.
get a decent little microphone off of Amazon and, um, a little ring light from Walmart, I mean, you could really.
It would be a far jump from my first videos on TikTok where I was actually waiting for it to get dark out and recording my television
There
with
you
my
go.
phone.
Yep.
And yeah, so and one of my fears with the creator fund is I really slowed down the last week, and almost just to see how it worked to pull money out of the fund, I did that last week for the first time. I was like, let me pull 50
Right.
bucks
I
from
did
here
that
and just
too.
see how that
Yeah.
process works. The moment that happened, it seems like I can't break 20,000 views a
That,
day this
oh
last
my
week.
God, that is
So
exactly
it's
what
really
happened to
weird.
me. As soon as
And it's
that is
hovered from
so
like
weird, I
19 to
never put the two
22,000.
together. As soon as we pulled money out of the creator fund, they did cut my views too.
I had a weird feeling that they don't want that money there for me. Like they don't really want me to pull it out. And honestly, I never was gonna, because I've been using that money as just another part of my analytics. Like, oh man, because there's days where I get $5
Yep.
and I'm like, well, that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. And I just use it as another measurement. The money, the hundred and whatever dollars that I've accrued
Yeah.
over time is not really, it's not going to make or break me. So I've used it
Right.
analytically. But the moment that I pulled money out and it went into my account, the next day my views just
That is
dropped
amazing.
considerably.
I saw the same. Now that you mention it, the time of when just 2 weeks ago, the time of when I pulled the money out for the first time, and when my views went below 20,000 a day, that yep, those dates line up.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm not sure. I might be making more out of it
Well,
than
that's the
there is,
thing.
but I definitely see a correlation in it.
That's the thing. We don't know. We don't know if we're making more of it than we are because they won't tell us anything, right? And none of these platforms do. And
Well, something's got to pay Bella, and I don't think they want me to be the one taking money from her. So
That would be interesting if they are just paying people on paper, but they actually don't want to pay out. That
Yeah.
would be concerning.
There's a lot of mystery behind
Yeah,
TikTok.
there's a mystery behind all these platforms because they won't tell anybody how this stuff works, right? And then it's like things can just end in the blink of an eye, you know. And you see a lot of YouTubers these days, the ones who are like really making money, they're going out and they're spending it. And if one of these days the rug gets pulled out from under them, they're going to be done. And I don't mean that YouTube might just fall out. I mean, I don't mean that YouTube might just go out of business. Obviously, it's not going to, but you could just be demonetized. And I'm not just talking a video. Like your account could just suddenly become demonetized because
Oh,
somebody, you
it's been
know,
bad.
and it's like you don't want to be stuck with an expensive car and a big house and no money left in the bank, and all of a sudden your account is demonetized, you know?
Yeah, and they don't even tell you
Right. And they
why.
don't
And a lot of times it's guys that aren't even making offensive content.
exactly. And they don't have to
So
tell you why. They don't have to answer to it because they put that in their terms of service and all this other legal jargon, right?
it's very much apparently a selective process, and they're the only ones who really know who gets selected and who doesn't. And I don't like to be very like conspiracy theorist on
I
that,
like to be a
but I
conspiracy
think
theorist.
I think it's
Okay.
on that on that. But I think it's just the obvious,
Yeah.
you know.
Interesting. Well, I think we can call that a full episode, Skate3Tommy.
All right, man. I appreciate you a lot, and thank you for having me on. And I do hope that I have the opportunity to get on here with you again
I'm
in the
definitely going to
future.
bring you back on, man. Thank you for joining. And
All right.
thank you, everyone, for
All right, Golden
listening. This
Thumbs.
has been another episode of Golden Thumbs Gaming. And together, we will become the #1 podcast in gaming.